Hi, my name is John Bannister. I'm a former law enforcement officer with the Jupiter Police Department for approximately 4.5 years. Behind me is the El Sol Center, which is a place that illegally hires immigrants that are not supposed to be in this country in the first place. While I was employed here at the Jupiter Police Department, what I would do is anytime that I had a felony arrest, I would contact ICE, which is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I would fax them my rough arrest and my probable cause affidavit, send it down to ICE. After I delivered the bad guy to jail, Immigration and Customs Enforcement would pick up the bad guy, take him down to Chrome, process him, and ship him out to whatever country they came from. The problem that I ran into here at Jupiter is after I'd been doing this for approximately 3 years, my management found out, or supervisors that actually found out what I was doing, pulled me in a room, asked me how long I'd been doing this. Once I told administration that I had been doing it for approximately 3 years and I deported probably at least 10 dozen people, they told me that that goes against the political agenda of what Jupiter's trying to do, and that from that point on, if I needed to do anything like that or got involved with Immigration and Customs Enforcement with deportation, that I had to send a memo to them or at least ask their permission before I was able to act. This goes against the laws of the federal government and the laws of the state of Florida. I just wanted to let my voice be heard and the truth be known on what goes on behind the walls of Jupiter Police Department. Thank you.
If you're a black American, you've noticed many of us are out of work. You probably also noticed a huge increase in immigration. Those two facts are related. Studies show immigration accounts for 40% of the decline in the employment of black men. And mass immigration is also a cause of the decline in black wages. It's time to stand up for black Americans' jobs. Ask our leaders where they stand. Paid for by the Coalition for the Future American Worker.
Our wildfires doesn't just involve the firefighting and the property destruction. 11 of the 18 people lying in UCSD Medical Center's burn unit tonight are illegal immigrants with no apparent health coverage. Ed Lenderman has that story tonight for us, too.
Here at UCSD, we're the only regional burn center in San Diego.
It started along the border, so it was perhaps inevitable that among the burn victims of the raging Harris fire would be illegal immigrants. 15 in all, 4 were found dead. The 11 injured are in UCSD Medical Center's acclaimed burn unit. 4 are in critical condition.
We always look for ways to get reimbursed for the care we provide, and for patients who are undocumented, they often won't qualify for the usual programs, the usual safety net programs that the county provides or that the state provides through the Medi-Cal program. So in many cases, these patients won't have any sponsorship, and we won't recover any of the costs of the care we're providing.
Because of the severity of the injuries, the medical center is looking at a potential loss of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Our philosophy here and the law is that a patient who comes to our doors and has an acute medical problem, we treat those patients without regard to their the color of their skin, their religion, or their ability to pay. And we will continue to care for patients in our hospital until they're ready to be discharged or transferred to another facility.
But therein lies another cost issue. The nature of severe burns virtually requires long-term care, months, perhaps years of treatment.
Well, what often happens for us is that when a patient has reached a point where they really don't require acute hospitalization, but they could be transferred to either a rehabilitation facility or a skilled nursing facility, our experience is that those facilities won't accept these patients because, like us, they require reimbursement to keep their doors open.
You would think the state and federal governments would chip in here, but Dr. McAfee says that certainly hasn't been the case in the past. That doesn't mean that UCSD isn't going to try this time around, and that includes seeking reimbursement from the government of Mexico.
So we will be pursuing getting reimbursement through the Mexican government. We'll be going to the federal authorities. I'll be in Washington, D.C. on Monday meeting with our congressmen, and you can be sure I'll be talking about this issue as well.
Ed Lenderman, KUSI News.
Mexico's President Felipe Calderón blasted U.S. government enforcement of U.S. immigration laws. President Calderón declared, quote, "Where there is a Mexican, there is Mexico." Calderón said the United States is persecuting Mexican workers in the United States illegally. And as Casey Wyan now reports, Calderón is demanding that the United States stop enforcement of its immigration laws.
Welcome to Mexico. Welcome to Mexico. Welcome to Mexico. At least that's how Mexican President Felipe Calderón apparently sees it. Calderón delivered his first State of the Nation address at the Mexican National Palace over the weekend.
I have said that Mexico does not end at the border, that where there is a Mexican, Mexico is there.
Calderón received a standing ovation after he criticized recent U.S. law enforcement crackdowns on illegal aliens.
I again strongly protest the unilateral measures taken by the United States Congress and government, measures that are making the persecution and humiliating treatment of undocumented Mexican workers worse.
Calderón also renewed his demand for amnesty for the estimated 6.6 million Mexican citizens living illegally in the United States. A day later, Calderón's comments were echoed by Los Angeles Catholic Cardinal Roger Mahony. Mahony held a Labor Day Mass and blessed the tools of workers in jobs largely held by illegal aliens.
These wonderful men and women, our immigrant brothers and sisters, go to work not knowing if there's going to be a raid, not knowing if there's going to be separation from them and their children, not knowing what will happen next. All the time, they're helping to build up our society, our economy, and without them, we will fail.
Like Mahony, Calderón seems to be taking advantage of every opportunity to criticize U.S. immigration enforcement efforts. Last week, the Mexican president met with recently deported illegal alien Elvira Arellano. He promised to look into the possibility of obtaining a diplomatic visa for Arellano so she can serve as a peace and justice ambassador and return to the United States. Calderón appears to be trying to use illegal immigration to unite his politically divided country. On Saturday, opposition lawmakers boycotted his address to the Mexican Congress, and they also prevented him from delivering the full speech there. Opposition leaders still claim Calderón's party stole Mexico's presidential election. Lou.
Well, Casey, no mention whatsoever in that address to the nation by Calderón of the abject failure of Salinas, Fox, and now Calderón to create jobs. Half the country living in abject poverty. This is an imperialistic statement. It is one that is shameless and taking no responsibility for the conduct of their policy. This is just, I can't even begin to comprehend what he's thinking.
Yeah, he actually did take credit. He says, he claims that Mexico has created 600,000 new jobs since he took office, but he did admit that 40% of Mexico's population still lives in poverty, 15% still lives in extreme poverty on less than $2 a day, Lou.
And at this point, the United States government has no bilateral foreign policy with the government of Mexico that recognizes any of the problems that the nation must deal with. And Felipe Calderón now suggesting that Mexico extends wherever a Mexican citizen, because of the abject poverty, the corruption and incompetence of the Mexican government, is forced to, as they like to say, migrate.
Could you imagine if President Bush made that statement about the United States extending to Mexico or any place else where there's an American? Imagine the outrage, Lou.
It's extraordinary. Thank you very much. Casey Wyan. That brings us to the subject of our poll tonight. Do you believe that President Bush should remind Mexico's President Felipe Calderón that his nation does actually end at our southern border? Yes or no? Please cast your vote at LouDimes.com. We'll bring you the results here later in the broadcast.